tells a story where Carl Stromberg planned to destroy the world and create a new civilization under the sea. So James Bond teams up with Anya Amazova to stop the plans while being chased by Jaws. After the unfavourable reviews to The Man with the Golden Gun, The Spy Who Loved Me was a pivotal film for the franchise. The project was plagued with difficulties from the outset. The first was Harry Saltzman leaving the Bond franchise, who was forced to sell his half of the series in 1975 for £20 million. Saltzman had branched out into several other ventures of dubious promise, including the unfilmed biopic about Cuthbert Grant starring Sean Connery, and consequently was struggling through personal financial reversals. Unrelated to Bond, Saltzman offered his shares in the company as collateral for his loans, and UBS attempted to foreclose on them. When Saltzman attempted hostile takeover, the Technicolor led to a lawsuit. Albert R. Broccoli wouldn't allow him to use Danjog funds, leading to a deadlock in the company, as Saltzman would not allow another Bond film to go forward. This was exacerbated by the twin personal tragedies of his wife, terminal cancer, and many of the symptoms of clinical depression in himself. It was required that they produce a Bond adaptation every 18 months or run the risk of losing the rights to the series to United Artists if they did not under the agreement of Danjog's distribution with United Artists. However, Saltzman continued blocking production on another Bond film and didn't allow Broccoli to buy his shares. Morris Binder and Albert R. Broccoli held negotiations about selling Harry Saltzman's shares to Adnan Khashoggi, David Frost, Lord Hanson, and Lord Harlech. Saltzman eventually agreed to sell his share directly to United Artists so that another Bond film can go forward. However, Albert R. Broccoli initially objected to the deal. He acquiesced after Saltzman received a counter-offer to sell his rights to the rival studio Columbia Pictures. There was trouble in hiring a director. Guy Hamilton was initially set to direct, but in November 1975 he left to direct Christopher Reeve's first Superman film, which Richard Donner took over the movie. After Steven Spielberg finished his work on Jaws months earlier, he asked Albert R. Broccoli if he could direct the next Bond film, but Broccoli said no, which is a shame, as I think it would have been cool to see Spielberg's Bond film. By December of that year, Lewis Gilbert was hired, who directed You Only Live Twice, after screening his movie Operation Daybreak, which was his latest at the time. Ian Fleming allowed Eon to use only the name of his novel, but not the actual plot. Fleming's name was moved for the first time from above the film's title to above James Bond 007. His name reverted to the traditional location for Moonraker, the last Eon Bond film based on a Fleming novel before Daniel Craig's first Bond film, the 2006 Casino Royale. However, the credit style first used in The Spy Who Loved Me on all Eon Bond films, since For Your Eyes Only, including Casino Royale. So Broccoli commissioned a number of writers to work on the script, including Sterling Siliphant, John Landis, Robert Hardy, Anthony Burgess, Carrie Bates, and Eric Marlowe. The British television producer Jerry Anderson also said that he provided a film treatment, although originally planned to be Moonraker, very similar to what ended up as The Spy Who Loved Me. Carrie Bates' script featured Bond and his former ally, Titanian Romanova, teaming up to stop Spectre hijacking of a nuclear submarine, coordinated by Hugo Drax from the base underneath Loch Ness. Anthony Burgess' script featured characters from his previous novel, Terma of Intent, and eschatological spy novel featured Bond fighting the criminal organization Chaos in Singapore and thwarting a plot to assassinate Queen Elizabeth II by bombing a Sydney opera house. Andrew Biswell of The International, Anthony Burgess Foundation, described it as an outrageous melody of sadism, hypnosis, acupuncture, and international terrorism. John Landis worked in the same office as Burgess, wrote a separate screenplay about Bond stopping a kidnapping of the Pope in Latin America. Richard Maybaum provided the script, and at first he tried to incorporate ideas from all of the other writers into a script. Maybaum's original script featured an alliance of international terrorists, including the Red Brigades, the Bodo Minhof Gang, the Black September Organization, and the Japanese Red Army attacking Spectre's headquarters in Norway. and deposing Blofeld before trying to destroy the world with nuclear SLBM attacks on the world's petroleum reservoirs. To make way for a new world order, Maybaum did location scouting in Budapest for the concept, but that idea was dropped because Broccoli felt it was too political. When Lewis Gilbert was reinstated as director, he decided to bring another writer, Christopher Wood. Gilbert also decided to fix what he felt the previous Roger Moore films were doing wrong, because it was too much the way Sean Connery played him. Instead, play Bond closer to the novel. Very English, very smooth, good sense of humour. The character Jaws was created, which I will get to. Broccoli agreed to Wood's proposed changes, but before he could set to work there were more legal complications. In the years since Thunderball, Kevin McClory had set up 2 film companies and had been cleared to produce a rival Bond film after imposed 10-year moratorium had expired. He was in development of the film project with the working title Warhead in collaboration with Sean Connery and novelist Len Deighton. McClory had learnt of Broccoli's plans to use Spectre, an organisation that had first been created by Fleming, while working with McClory and Jack Whittingham on the very first attempt to film Thunderball, back even before it was a novel in the late 1950s. McClory filed an injunction against Eon Productions, alleging copyright infringement, didn't wish to extend already ongoing legal disputes that could have delayed the production of The Spy Who Loved Me. Broccoli requested Wood to remove all the reference to Blofeld and Spectre from the script. However, in June 1976, McClory was awarded the sole rights to Spectre and Blofeld. Broccoli decided to include the KGB in the film as Bond's allies after showing a group of Russians. A James Bond movie during the production of The Blue Bird in Soviet Union, when they enjoyed the film but commented that it could not be shown there because it was too anti-Russian. Broccoli decided to include characters such as Amasova and Gogol, who would not be a hero, not a villain, but acceptable in terms of Russian distribution. Tom Mankiewicz said he was called in to do extensive rewrite of the script. He also said he did not receive credit because Broccoli was limited to the number of non-British in key positions he could employ on the films to obtain Edie Levy assistance. Vernon Harris also did the uncredited rewrites on the script. Those casts reprise the role. Barbara Bach plays Anya Amasova, Agent XXX, a Bond girl, and she's a Soviet intelligence operative, originally employed by the KGB and the lover of Sergei Borzov. I really love that character. She's definitely one of my favourite Bond girls. Barbara was casted 4 days before principal photography started and performed her audition expecting just a supporting role in the movie. Originally, Amasova makes a cameo in Moonraker as the woman in bed with General Gogol, but this never made it in the movie. Kurt Jurgens plays Carl Stromberg, the founder and CEO of shipping company called Stromberg Shipping, who attempted to destroy the human race. He's a great villain. The character of Stromberg was created specifically for the film by writer Christopher Wood. The entire story of the movie actually bears little to no resemblance to that original novel by Ian Fleming. This was at Fleming's request. Upon selling the film rights to his novel, he specifically dictated only the title could be used by Eon Productions. Stromberg has the distinction, therefore, of being the very first major James Bond villain to be created specifically for the movies. In the early scripts, the character was going to be Blofeld. Richard Kiel plays Jaws, a badass and professional who's got metal teeth, which gave him the name. The character was an inspiration from Ian Fleming's description, a hoodlum named Saul Horowitz, in his The Spy Who Loved Me novel. I really love Jaws. Jaws makes an appearance in the Minion Recovery Group Inspector Gadget in 1999. Also, Richard Kiel and Roger Moore are good friends in real life. Apparently, Richard can only wear metal teeth for a few minutes at a time because they hurt his mouth so much, also extremely difficult to put on. Walter Gattel plays General Alexei, aka Anatoly Gogol, the head of KGB, and later a representative of the Soviet Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He's great too. Walter Gottnoll previously played Morzeny in From Russia with Love. Caroline Munro plays Naomi, the helicopter pilot, or assistant to Stromberg. She gives off great performance. Geoffrey Keane plays Frederick Grey, the British Minister of Defence, an official within Her Majesty's government and the head of Ministry of Defence, who became a recurring character in 6 Bond films. I really like that character. Michael Billington plays Sergei Borzov, a Soviet intelligence operative originally employed by KGB and Anya Amasova's lover. In the novel, he's called Sergei Borzov, with that spelling, and he's an agent of Odile 4, a department of SMERSH. He's brilliant as well. Michael was screen tested for the role of James Bond more than any other actors. He was tested for Live and Let Die, Moonraker, For Your Eyes Only, and Octopussy. Sidney Toffler plays the captain of supertanker Liberus, who was high-ranking member of the Stromberg shipping. Great performance. The casts have done a great job. Milo Sperber plays Professor Markovitz, a scientist associated to Stromberg. Cyril Schaps plays Dr. Beckman, who's also a scientist associated to Stromberg. Olga Becerra plays Felica, the secretary. Milton Reed plays Sandor, an enforcer hired by Stromberg, an assistant to his top assassin, Jaws. Shane Rimmer plays Commander Carter, who's the captain of USS Wayne, an American nuclear submarine. Shane also played a radio operator in You Only Live Twice, and Tom in Diamonds Are Forever. Brian Marshall plays Commander Talbot, the British Royal Navy submarine. HMS Ranger, commanding officer. Vernon Dobchelf plays Max Kalber, the Mojobber club owner. Nadim Sawala plays Aziz Fekish, an Egyptian middleman who is involved in the sale of plans for Stromberg's submarine tracking system. Zuvana plays Martine Blanchard, which is possibly the character's name, but she's known to be called Log Cabin Girl, who acts as a bait in Soviet attempt to assassinate Bond. Edward De Souza plays Sheikh Hussein, James Bond's friend, who's an Egyptian Bedouin, MI6 intelligence informant. George Baker plays Benson, the staff officer in Royal Navy. Eva Ruba Steyer plays Rubovich, the secretary of General Gogol, who returned in Octopussy with a different name spelling. Robert Brown had a small role in this movie as Admiral Hargreaves, and then later played M, replacing Bernard Lee. It's possible that Robert Brown's M and Admiral Hargreaves are the same person. Carly Simon performed the song Nobody Does It Better. It's the first theme song in the series with a different title to the film. However, the title is in the lyrics. But like heaven above me, the sky above me. And because the song was a success, it was played in many films including Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Little Black Book, Lost in Translation, and Bridget Jones' The Edge of Reason. I love the fast soundtrack for the gun barrel scene. The open ski chase scene is a blast to watch. I really love the soundtrack. And it's a nice long fall. He's been falling for quite some time. I thought the video game sound effects on a computer was pretty cool. So we meet a villain, and someone is really pissed off. Jaws smiling is terrifying. When he chews the chain was pretty gangster. I love the lighting where Bond fights with Jaws, it's really spooky.
Himself against death.
I would hate to mess with Jaws, especially being bitten by him. The stealth scene is intense. It was pretty funny when Jaws lifted the rock and then he dropped it on his foot. As Bond puts to sleep by a cigarette, he walks around in Egypt and Miss Moneypenny sets up an office. Love that stuff. Q introduces a tea on a tray that knocks off a mannequin's head. You can never get rid of Jaws. I like the hitcher when the creepy hitchhiker stalks Jim Halsey everywhere he goes, which makes it really suspenseful, which I like. Champagne, sir. I love the moment between Bond and Q. It's so funny when he's so annoyed with the tricks he comes up with.
There are one or two rather special accessories.
Q, have I ever let you down?
Frequently.
So during the car chase, poor guy, the car falls down to his roof. And I love to give props to the direction of the submarine scene. The underwater with fishes is absolutely beautiful, and the music fits in really well. It's well done for its time. And I love the way Bond drops a fish while surrounded by people. Have a fish. I'm sure it looks better when it's battered. The final battle scene is great. The James Bond theme tune playing and the guy presses the switch and the theme tune turns off. It kind of felt like the fourth wall breaking.
Sir? What is it?
At least he pressed the right one.
What did you do? I turned off the wall. No, you didn't. You turned off the whole movie. I must have pressed the wrong button. Well, put it back on. Put the movie back on. Yes, sir.
Sir? What is it? You did want me to drop in.
Well, it's nice to drop in safely. After Stromberg is shot dead, Bond gets Jaws hanged to the skin of the teeth, and then Jaws fights Jaws.
The mission is over, Commander.
And it's a funny ending when James Bond and Anya Amazova were caught by their superiors.
007. Triple X. Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British hand up, sir.
Man, I wish we saw what happened next, just after Bond closes the curtains and carry on with the business. I think this is one of Roger Moore's best Bond films. All casts are brilliant. Roger Moore, again, is a great Bond. I really love the villains, especially Jaws. The effects is good for its time. Marvin Hamlish's music is absolutely fantastic. I must admit, I was really gutted he only did one. Damn it! People sees this movie as a return to the original form. Even Roger Moore said this is a favourite Bond film he did. The movie gave us the official novelisation of the movie, which was itself inspired by the 1962 novel written by Ian Fleming. When he sold the film rights to the James Bond novels to Harry Saltzman and Albert R. Broccoli, he only gave permission for the title The Spy Who Loved Me to be used. Since the plot in the movie has nothing to do with Fleming's original novel, Eon Productions for the first time authorised that a novelisation be written based upon the script. Peter Jansen Smith, Ian Fleming's literacy agent, said there was no hand in the Christopher Wood novelisations other than the film people were told that there was going to exert in their legal rights to handle the rights in the books. They chose Christopher Wood because he was one of the screenwriters at the time, and they decided what he would be paid. Peter and the film crew have got their instructions on that, but from then on, these books of the films became like any other Bond novel. They controlled the publication rights. This would also be the first regular Bond novel published since Colonel Sun almost a decade earlier. Christopher Wood himself, a novelist and who co-authored the screenplay with Richard Maybaum, was commissioned to write the book, which was given the title James Bond, The Spy Who Loved Me. Christopher Wood would also novelise the screenplay for the next Bond movie, Moonraker, in 1979. There were some differences between novelisation and screenplay, like novelisation, Smersh, has been reactivated sometime before the start of the novel, and is still after James Bond. Coming up next is Moonraker,